Hello and good morning, afternoon, or evening to anyone that's listening. My name is Cara and welcome to the Connection Challenge brought to you by Student Volunteer Connections in collaboration with CFRU radio station. In these unprecedented times, we're all facing unique challenges, but one that's universal is the challenge of staying connected with each other and with our communities. My peer helper team at SVC is taking this time to share stories about different ways the Connection Challenge is affecting members of our community. From our friends to local volunteers to different community organizations and nonprofits to highlight their resilience and creativity in dealing with these challenges. We hope that through listening, you can appreciate the value of connection and feel inspired to explore different opportunities to connect with others and communities around you. So let's get started with today's guest. So I'll let the guest that's with me today introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Nicole Marchesseau, and I'm the project manager for J.O.E, Jobs, Opportunities, Enterprise.
Great. So could you tell me a little bit about what J.O.E is and what you usually do as an organization?
J.O.E is a registered charity in Guelph, and in non-COVID times, we run cafes, small cafes, within different venues in Guelph. So there's one at the Guelph Public Library. There are two other cafes, that we were running before COVID. One was on Dawson Road and at the Medical Place, and the other is in Westminster Woods, so at the Medical Plaza there. Yep. And
Cool.
yeah, that's our non-COVID life.
Okay, so on that note, what's the biggest challenge that you have faced with COVID and the effect that it's had on your ability to provide these services?
Right. So I should also let you know what our services are. So
Yeah.
we're a registered charity that specifically provides employment opportunities for adults with developmental disabilities and training opportunities for these adults as well. So our adults work in the coffee shops, and they work for tips. It's a great experience for them to connect with community. So a really big part of J.O.E is that community piece, right? So that our cafes almost function as an interface between our J.O.E baristas, our participants of the program, and the public, the open community. So challenges are that a lot of folks with developmental disabilities have other things that make them more vulnerable. Some of them have other conditions that make them more vulnerable in the community. It's been a really tough time for folks with developmental disabilities. Some of them were living in group housing situations and faced months of lockdown where they couldn't see their family, and that was very, very challenging. Others have moved back home with, in some cases, older aging parents, and it's been a very isolating experience. So we've closed our cafes because it's just not safe to have them open right now. But one of our goals through this entire lockdown or shutdown or the restrictions that we're facing right now is to continue the community piece, right? It's to keep people engaged, keep people, and interfaces look very different these days, but keep people included in community. So it's been a challenge, and I think that we're doing pretty well so far, and there's always more work to be done, of course.
Yeah, I can imagine that being really challenging, especially with like that being your main goal with the coffee shops and then having such like a strong impact and not being able to do that. So how can volunteers contribute during this time?
Right. So we've basically had a threefold approach to the pandemic. One of them involves holding weekly coffee chats where anybody who's involved in J.O.E can come in and join. So we have volunteers joining. We have our placement students from Conestoga College who are with us until April, who are also joining. Our baristas are there, volunteers from the community are there, and it's really an opportunity for the participants who are part of J.O.E to socialize, to connect with each other and to the other folks that are involved in the organization, to share stories from the week, to tell jokes because our Joe folks really enjoy connecting with each other through humor, right? So when you laugh, you let your guard down, right? And it's a way of connecting with people. And so they like to tell jokes. They send in recipes. So that's one of the way that we've been connecting. Another thing that we have going on at J.O.E is Training Grounds, which is a program that runs on Mondays, and it's all over Zoom. Those are the times that we live in, I guess. So it's all over Zoom. Training Grounds focuses on things like workplace safety training and food safety handling, getting along with other people on the job, the types of rules that you might encounter while at work, defining what work is, and getting to know each other. So there's a lot of discussion in our meetings on through Training Grounds. So some of the Tuesday coffee chat folks also serve to mentor others in Training Grounds. So we have sort of like a combination of different people all working together. And then the other piece that we're moving through right now is the Community Helpers program. And that program is the main reason behind the program is to connect and give an opportunity to connect the participants who are part of J.O.E with the open community, which is a very challenging thing to do right now. And so we've really taken a page from a lot of the other philanthropic activities that other groups have been participating in, and we've tried to give back to the community and to help out with others. So our most recent project was the postcard project, which was we've just last week, and it's still continuing on, delivered 4,000 postcards to folks in long-term care and folks in town who are maybe food or home insecure. And I think that it's a really good way for the J.O.E folks, so the participants and anybody who's involved in the organization, to continue to connect. And it's connecting, it's helping. In a way, it's an extension of a cup of coffee, right? So we had a lot of customers at the Guelph Public Library who would really just go to J.O.E for that connection, right? So this is a way for and I guess it was more so at the library because it was more of a cafe setting rather than in a medical place where people would pass through. But at the library, people were there to make a connection, and they would sit down in the library and chat with the people at the coffee nook. And yeah, so this was an extension of that. You know, it's sort of this giving back idea.
Yeah, I love that because yes, people come to get a cup of coffee, but it's a lot more than that. Going to a cafe, like you said, it's for the connection, and there's no reason why we can't still do that over Zoom. It's I know it's not the same, but you can still connect with people online and still offer that connection, which is really nice. And I like how you're still providing learning experiences to the baristas, even though they're not being able to actually serve in the coffee shop. There's still these not training, but the meetings where they learn those skills, which is really great.
Yeah, different skills too.
yeah, which is really cool. I saw on your website that you make stones for the Guelph General Hospital, like painting on stones.
That was one of our projects. So there, I'm not sure if it's there right now, but there was a pretty extensive installation of rocks for frontline workers that went up in the spring. And so we did a small rock painting project for that. That was one of our first community helpers initiatives.
Very cool. Okay, so what kind of people would you recommend reach out to volunteer with this organization, and what kind of time commitment would it be to volunteer with you?
Right. So right now we have a couple of students who are volunteering with us on our Tuesday morning coffee chats, and some of the activities that volunteers are helping with are putting together sort of like recreational activities. So one volunteer is thinking about having like a food night. So we'll get together over Zoom and play games and share recipes. Another volunteer is doing a lot of programming about, I guess, mindfulness and self-reflective programming. Some meditation, some ways to relax, and just ways to stay well during this challenging time. So the volunteers really come from like a variety of places, but I would say that most of our volunteers are looking to either get into psychology or they're already in the psych program at Guelph. We also have other volunteers that have come who are maybe coming from that background but looking to get into social work. Yeah, so those are, I would say probably most of our volunteers are psych majors or arts and science as well, but then that can also encompass psychology as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. So would you say that it's good for building on career opportunities in terms of if they want more experience working with adults with disabilities? Would you say that's a good start?
I would say that that's a really, really great start. It's a really good experience to work with people, right? And to the opportunities that we have at J.O.E are really working on things like programming. And if you volunteer with us, I guess I pick on people a lot and say, hey, why don't you come up with something that you really want to work on with the J.O.E folks? And you know, once we talk about it a little bit, then you know we'll go ahead and launch it. But really, like what I do want to say about that though is that a lot of the programming that we do have is programming that the participants at J.O.E are wanting to do, right? So they have to want to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not sort of like, let's do this thing just because I find it interesting. So it's programs that people are interested and engaged in. So the engagement piece is really important.
Yeah, it's nice that they have the ability to take that initiative and think of something that they're interested to and kind of suggest it, see what people think, and then build on that. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure. And it really could go anywhere. Like maybe people are interested, maybe someone has a graphic design background and they'd be interested in running a one-time workshop about, you know, how
Yeah,
these look really great. And because we try different things, we've been using Canva to design the postcards, and the baristas all designed the postcards that were mailed out, right? So it was like their design and their artwork and everything. So some help in that way would help. With training grounds, there has been some interest in starting how to start your own business. So if someone would like to do a workshop or even just interviews with people who have certain experiences or might want to share their knowledge about certain things, and set up an interview with us, and you know, we'd be happy to sort of include it in our programming, and it's sort of like a smaller commitment than what would be required if, say, you wanted to be an online mentor who was there every week. That said, if you wanted to be an online mentor who was there every week, I think it's probably like maybe a better experience to put down on a resume or something like that, or a grad school application. Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what we try and encourage with Student Volunteer Connections too, is that although like one-time opportunities are great, you're doing something great for the community. If it is something that you're trying to build on and maybe work towards developing skills for a future career, it's nice to be able to have contributed to that organization for a long period of time. So it's nice that this organization has both of those options. You can, you know, like you said, do a one-time workshop, but you could also contribute every week and like really be a part of the team in the organization, which is really nice.
Yeah. So the only last thing that I'll say about that is that it's a good opportunity for volunteers to try something out and maybe see if that's an area
Yeah.
in, right? Because I think a lot of us sort of end up in these situations where we're like, oh, is this really what I want to be doing for the next however long? But it's an opportunity to work with a different type of population, to work on different skills, to learn how to use language in a different way than maybe what we're used to, right? And to work to learn how to communicate in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. You never know what you want to do until you actually try it. I feel like people get stuck in their head about exactly what they want to do with their life, but then if you never actually volunteer, or not even volunteering, but just like immersing yourself in that job, just like not being a job, but being able to experience what it would be like if it were a job. That's really the only way that you can figure out if it's the right thing for you, like you said.
Yes, definitely. I know I've had a few experiences in my life like that where, oh, I guess this is not what I want to do. So
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so if anyone's listening and they're interested, like any of these things sound interesting to them, what's the best way for them to reach out and get involved? Would email be a good way to reach you?
Email is the best way to reach me. Sometimes I don't always check my phone like every 5 seconds. So yes, email's good. It's jobs.opportunities.enterprise@gmail.com. But you can also find us through our website. So if you search up Jobs Opportunities Enterprise, then you should be able to find it. Also, if you go to our website, jobsopportunitiesenterprise.org, then you'll be able to reach us that way too.
Great. I'll include that information under this video as well. Post it.
Cool.
So is there anything else you would like viewers to take away from this interview before we wrap up?
We love bringing new people into the fold, and it's our participants in our program love meeting new people as well. And I think that the more people are involved in their community and in initiatives like ours, the more inclusive our community is, right? And really we're all about inclusion, and not just inclusion for adults with developmental disabilities, but inclusion for everybody, right? So that sometimes that means kind of like if it's something that you're interested in, putting your neck out there and going for it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today, Nicole. Yeah. So that concludes this episode of the Connection Challenge. We hope you learned something new and you feel inspired moving forward to tackle the Connection Challenge in your own way, however that may be. Don't forget to follow these stories on SBC Griff Life page or the course link page, which is under the self-registration tab on your regular course link page for all your classes. And stay up to date with Experience Guelph on Instagram. That's EXP Guelph. Yeah, so we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, guys.